Welcome to True Crime Garage. Wherever you are, whatever you are doing, thanks for listening. I'm your host, Nick, and I say turkey for the girls and turkey for the boys. And here's a guy whose favorite kind of pants are corduroys. Here's the captain.
I really did like corduroy pants in high school. It's good to be seen, and it's good to see you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for telling a friend.
You know what would be great with Thanksgiving dinner? A little shot of whiskey with a refreshing lemon shandy chaser. That's right, baby. Today we are still sipping on Shady Spot by our good friends over at Susquehanna Brewing Company. ABV 4.5%, garage grade 4.25 bottle caps out of 5. And let's start off with a big, huge thank you to Portia and Parts Unknown.
A big cheers to Amela in Boise, Idaho.
Next, we have a nice contribution to this week's beer fund from Frank and Estelle Catstanza from Del Boca Vista Retirement Community in Los Angeles. Catstanza.
Can't stand ya. And a big shout out to Allison in Ledgewood, New Jersey.
And here's a double cheers to Jen and MJ at Center Caps Direct. They are out in Naka Nowhere, which I believe is just one county over from Parts Unknown. So cheers to Jen and MJ, and cheers to everyone who contributed to this week's Garage Fridge Fill-Up Beer Run.
Thank you guys so much for supporting the show this year. Big things happening, as this is our last show. Big things are happening because we're quitting. No, just joking. Big things happening in 2021, and I hope everybody made it through 2020. And that is enough of the business.
All right, everybody, gather around, grab a chair, grab a beer. Let's talk some true crime. We are continuing our discussion with John Douglas, retired FBI Special Agent John Douglas. You know him from the Behavioral Science Unit. You may know him from the wonderful show Mindhunter. Picking up where we left off, we were discussing one of my favorite books, Law and Disorder, and in particular, the West Memphis 3 case. Mr. Douglas, when you met Mark Byers, there was a dramatic contrast to your meeting with Terry Hobbs. At first, Mark Byers was off-put and not very welcoming to your conversation, but he very quickly warmed up to you and then became very much an open book, whereas Terry Hobbs put on the facade of being welcoming and interested in talking to you. However, as the conversation went along, he became aggressive and became dodgy to your questions.
He wanted, he very much so. A word got out that, that he wanted to have somebody get rid of me and contract to have me killed. But Byers, you're exactly right. When I sat on that porch of his, it was hot as heck down there, sweating, and he got angry as hell, and his wife was there. And initially, I started talking. I was on the porch like an hour or so. And then finally, I was invited into the house. And I spent hours on hours, with him and just assessing him. And I mean, he's not the most stable person, at that certainly. But he didn't kill his child. A different feel too that I had when I spoke to Terry Hobbs, and initially spoke with him at a shopping center, trying to gain his trust. And then when I started gaining information on him, and he got really pissed off at me, when we were able to track down years earlier how he broke into a house, a neighbor's house, and as she was taking a shower, and he tried to molest this woman. He thought that record was purged and it wasn't available, and so he had that. He also shot his brother-in-law, and he was also extremely violent to his children, his son and his young son and daughter, and to his wife. His wife is a believer that he is responsible for that crime, but no one's going to really do it. No one's really working it. And as far as they're concerned, it's solved. They don't have to pay. They don't have to pay any money to Damien Eccles and Jesse and Jason Baldwin, any state money, because they pled the Alford plea, and so to this day they're sex offenders. These three. I did a presentation with Amanda Knox and Jesse, Miss Kelly, about a year and a half ago up in New York, and you could see I took a chunk out of their lives. It's like they're behind developmentally, emotionally, because of the time they spent, a period of time in their lives in prison, particularly Damien, and it was the same too with Amanda. It's the same thing.
Speaking of interviewing parents of victims and also parents that may be considered suspects, you were directly involved in the still unsolved homicide of 6-year-old JonBenet Ramsey. For those who are yet to read the cases that haunt us, can you explain how you became involved in the case?
Yeah, I happened to be in Utah at the time, speaking at a university, when I got a call from an investigator who's working on a defense team. I didn't know who he was, and asked me that if I would like to participate in the investigation, and I told a colleague of mine who used to work for me in the unit. I accepted it, and I said, this family is guilty. I'm in the back of my mind, I'm thinking that they're guilty, because what I was reading in the papers, what was being presented on television. So I go over and I meet the attorneys in Denver, in an old mansion they have as an office, and inside of what would be the living room is an enclosed encasement of like a fiberglass room within the room, and go in there. So I'm thinking in the back of my mind, what are these guys going to do? They're going to like offer me money or something? They're going to pay me? I'm going to give them a rash of crap, man, and walk right out on them. But I got in there, and I sat down, and they said, John, we don't know. We really don't know. We don't know. He said, we don't think they did it. But we'd like you to take a look at what we have. Can we present to you what we have? And I said, yeah. He says, but and they are going to pay me. They're going to pay me, but the pay. People think I became a millionaire. $1,500. I spent a lot of time. I testified out there and everything, and because once I realized I was working for victims. I wasn't working for offenders. I was working for victims of a violent crime who are now in the process of being re-victimized by being accused of killing their child. But once I saw how she was murdered and the things that was done to her, that wasn't all made public, and parents kill. Believe me, we have had plenty of cases. Parents kill, but not like this. Not like this. Not in this with this family. This type of family, either. They don't kill like this. So I did the analysis. I met with the family, and first thing I did, I went to the house and kind of reconstructed things to see where they were. Their bedroom was up like in an attic that was made into a master bedroom, and the children on the next floor down. And you can't hear anything with the air conditioning, heating units going. You really can't hear anything if anyone was down below you there. But when I look at a case like that, okay, you're looking at then I'm looking at pre-offense behavior, post-offense behavior. What's going on in their lives? And I didn't see anything in pre-offense behavior that was out of the ordinary or unusual. It's Christmas time. They're going to Charlevoix, Michigan for the holidays, and I think they're going to work their way down to Disney World. And I don't see anything there. Now we perpetrate the crime. Okay, the crime has been perpetrated. Let's take a look at that. And then I saw where the investigators asked John and a neighbor, Fleet Wood, to take a look around, see if anything's out of the ordinary. Take a look downstairs in this basement. So they go down there. Usually when a parent kills, what we found over the years, that the parent who did the killing, it won't be the one to find the body. He'll get somebody else, the person with them. Or if it's searching in the yard or something, with a search party, they are not going to be the one to find the child. In this situation here, Fleet White goes down. John goes into this room, checks. It's a wine cellar, but there's no wine. They don't even drink. And there he finds his daughter. "Oh my God, my baby!" He shouts out, and she has tape over her mouth. Her hands are over her head, tied together. He doesn't know it yet, but she is garroted, and he then picks her up, carries her upstairs, lays her down eventually in the, I guess it's in the living room. Bunch of people are up there. Everything's contaminated, and they're trying to bring her back to life, rubbing her body. That's in rigor, and there's a little bruise on her forehead. So she has a bruise on her forehead. She has been garroted. They can't even see the garrote. She's been garroted, and a piece of the paintbrush is used as a handle to garrote her with a rope. This nylon rope that they never found where this rope was. The Ramseys didn't have it. They didn't find any other pieces of it. They find wood fibers from the same paintbrush in her vaginal area. She's been penetrated with, believe now, with that stick. That's how that got there. When they start the autopsy and they remove the skull or the skin on the skull, surprisingly they find that the skull has been cracked open like a coconut, like 8.5 inches in length. But why is there just a little slight red mark on her forehead? And my gosh, to break your skull, you'd think there'd be some kind of edema, there'd be swelling and blood. And why is because she was dead or on her last breath when the person responsible wasn't satisfied enough with the death itself, so he does her in. It wasn't necessary to kill. She's already dead from the garrote, and then the letter. The other thing, the letter, right? The 2.5-page letter, and the FBI was against me. Police hated me around the country, and never saw a 2.5-page letter. And that's right. They're right about that. However, when would the letter have been written? Is the question. You mean to tell me that after the Ramseys have been murdered, now you're going to write a 2.5-page letter, this threatening letter, asking for money, and the money coincides roughly to what a bonus that John Ramsey had. But you're going to be pulling into this letter different verses that are coming right out of movies, out of movies like Ransom, and you're going to have the presence of mind to do something like that after the crime. No, you're not. You're not going to have that kind of presence of mind. So I just saw so many different things, and the bureau, if they were angry, like I may be, I like when I saw Alex Hunter talking before the public. We know you're out there. We know there's more than one of you. I knew that he was coached by, without anyone telling me. I mean, I invented this stuff that he was being told by the agents of what to say. But I'm not telling the defense what they're doing here, what their tactics are. I'm not doing it. I would have loved to have been able to solve that case if it was them. Just come up and get a confession out of them. But that was not not the case. And there was a broken man. I've met John several times, and a broken man. Patsy Ramsey's stage, she was in remission, cancer returned, she died. Everyone was waiting for a dying declaration. There was no dying declaration. She didn't kill her daughter. John has since remarried. CBS comes out with a TV show with these so-called FBI, some former agents, experts in quotes, and forensic experts, and they come up with this theory, more than a theory, but an accusation that Burke Ramsey is responsible for the death. I mean, I was watching that and I'm thinking, holy mackerel, you can't say something like that. I mean, here Burke is. He's. I'm not going to say where he lives, but I've come across him over the years. I mean, he did not hit his sister accidentally or whatever, or on purpose. In fact, if the parents knew that, they never would have allowed him to talk to the police alone without even the parents in the presence of Burke. So it's another one of these cases where they what they did, Nick, is and you see this sometimes on cases. They let a theory drive an investigation, and they let certain evidence that supports the theory in, and they disallow some evidence that doesn't fit the theory out. So they let that theory drive it, not being driven by evidence of any kind or forensic or evidence or whatever, eyewitness testimony. They're letting a theory, and you know why? Because you didn't have a homicide investigator work in that case. You had a drug investigator working, a narcotics officer working that case. And because they have so few cases, they rotate them out there in Boulder. And so the mindset of a narcotics officer is different than a homicide officer. A narcotics officer knows you're dealing, knows it's you. I know it's you. I'm going to make a case on you. I'm going to make it, on you. I'm going to build a case all around you. Informants, whatever, we're going to get you. Well, you get that mindset in the homicide case. I know you did it. I know the certain behavior. Patsy, when they brought the child up, Patsy was there. Her fingers were splayed across her face, peeking through her eyes, and all that other nonsense stuff. No, you let a theory drive your investigation. You're into a narcotics investigation mindset, not a homicide investigators, and that's why. Who's the investigator from Colorado Springs? Lou Smith.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. As soon as you are brought in to take a look at the case, and as soon as the famous homicide detective, the late, great Lou Smith, is brought in to take a look at the case, the two of you separately come up with very similar conclusions. It's the famous Lou Smith intruder theory.
When I testified for the grand jury, and then he testified, I guess, before I did, a different day, and I testified. Afterwards, they said that Lou Smith wanted to speak with me, and over in Colorado Springs. Great guy, really great guy. And so they drove me over there, and I knock on his door, and he comes to the door, and he said, and we introduced ourselves. He said, "John," he said, I don't know how you did it. It took me 10 months. 10 months. You came up with this in 4 days, 4 or 5 days, whatever it was. And he said, and you didn't see everything. And I've got everything. I got everything here. I'd like to go through the case, a PowerPoint presentation, and with you. And I said, that'd be great. So I went down in his basement. He went through the whole case, and then seeing even everything, but things I didn't see. I just certain cases had to make assumptions. Everything just fit, and then they were coming out that that Lou and myself, that the family was religious, that we were being pulled into the Ramseys because of our faith, and no, we've both of us have been investigators of all types. We'll arrest religious people. I mean, we don't care, but if we don't like wrongful convictions and destroying the lives of people. I mean, it's terrible to lose your child, but now to be accused of killing your child, and that's when you get into, Nick, the social media, where it can be dangerous. A lot of social media can be good, where you can develop help and actually can help law enforcement with leads and people discussion, and there's been some websites that have been very, very successful. But then you get others, which can jeopardize investigation and shape the attitude of people. I remember right after that too. I'm on a train going up to New York, and there's a guy in front of me, and this was after I did an analysis. I'm back, and on the night of the crime, it was like the head on the night of the crime. Patsy was out with her lover, and I'm thinking, what the hell? So when I get to New York, I call. I said, was Patsy having an affair with some guy? You're not telling me? What are you talking about? And I said, this guy, but it's one of these rag tabloid things. I saw this on a train. No, it's garbage. It's garbage. But you can see how people see that kind of crap, and start believing in it. And you can't sway their opinion at all.
Do you think we will ever know who killed JonBenet?
I hope so. I mean, I don't know. You hear different things if they brought in, they've had some good suspect. They had one good suspect there. They had several. I mean, the place was full of sex offenders all around the areas where Patsy and John were living there. But then there was one guy who committed suicide. He had access to a stun gun. See, the police discount that. Lou Smith went over the stun gun and showed me. They did tests with a medical doctor on pigs using a stun gun, showing the marks of similarities here. I mean, hopefully, DNA, familial DNA or something will solve that case one day. But I don't know if they're working. And I hear once in a while, you hear like a new attorney general come in. We're going to take a new look at the case, or a prosecutor wants to take a look at the case. But hopefully, I mean, you can look at the Golden State case. I mean, after all these years, I mean, we worked that case. I worked when it was the East Area rapist, the rapes that he was doing, and we didn't. It wasn't responsible. It was just DNA. DNA got him, which was after so many years. A police officer was responsible.
We're all very excited for the release of your new book, The Killer's Shadow, the FBI's Hunt for a White Supremacist Serial Killer. Can you tell us a little bit about your latest book?
This is a different kind of serial killer, and it was a case that the first case that the Bureau would give me, only because they've of a supervisor on the Civil Rights Division squad up at headquarters. We knew each other from Milwaukee Division. We were on the same SWAT team together, and he knew I was doing this research on serial murders and going into prisons, and he calls me to see if I could be of help. So this would be different, Nick. This would not be a profile so much as it would be an assessment. So you got to kind of do your old show. Years ago, it was called "This Is Your Life," and they would do this background of total background of a guy. So I would go up to headquarters, and there was a lot of pressure, because if I screw this thing up, I'm just starting to get going here, and not everyone is supportive within the organization of me doing any of this research. They just don't understand, what the purpose of it is, even though we're helping local police and the later international police departments here. So the assessment is that the latest thing with Franklin is that he's linked to over 20 homicides. He's a prolific bank robber. He, unlike serial killers that have a particular comfort zone for the crimes, this guy is all over the place. He's all over the map. He's a bomber. Some of his cases are a bombing. He is a bank robber, prolific bank robber. He is it turns out to be an excellent shot with a rifle. In fact, he's an excellent shot with only one eye, because as a youth, he lost the sight of eyes in his right eye in an accident People think said it was a bicycle. No, it wasn't a bicycle accident. It was a shade, an old window shade with a spring inside. And he was playing with his brother. The spring came out, popped him right in the eye. Mother took him to the hospital. A mother who was extremely abusive to him. A father, extremely, again, very, very abusive to him and his brothers and sisters. Mother takes him to the hospital. The doctor says, "We can't do anything right now. It's temporary, but bring him back in a couple of months. We'll do some surgery and we'll make his eye good as new." She doesn't do that. She doesn't take him back as a young child to the hospital. He ends up losing his sight, and he then, what a way to overcompensate the loss of his sight is to be an excellent shot. He wanted to be a police officer, too. Another one. He said, another guy wants to be an officer. And when he heard through a neighbor who was a police officer that he couldn't join because of the loss of one eye, he extremely angry and bitter again towards his mother, hated his mother and his father. That's why he would change his name to Joseph. His name was James Vaughn. He would change his name to Joseph Paul Franklin, and then he then was gravitated to these KKK, different these radical hate groups, American Nazi Party passing out literature. Today he would have a field day with the internet access. But then what he realized was, because he was paranoid, that these organizations were pretty much infiltrated by FBI informants, and they were keeping good tabs on him. On these organizations back then, and they were primarily, talking the talk but not walking the walk. And he became frustrated and decided to go out on his own, and the so-called birth of the lone wolf criminal. And it just started by tailing interracial couples. First one was up in Maryland. He maced them, but then that was after the macing them. That was the last time he'd used mace. From then on in, he would start using various firearms. He shot Larry Flint, Flint Hustler magazine. He shot him. He shot Vernon Jordan, civil rights leader. At the time, he wrote a threatening letter to Jimmy Carter. Secret Service was, when he wasn't identified yet, was trying to figure out, who done it. So what I said was, with him, the long and short of it is, I came up with an assessment that predicted where he would go in the country, and that would be now that he's a fugitive, he's a top 10. He committed these crimes all around these other areas, but he's going to be a homing pigeon now. He's going back to Mobile. It's going back to Mobile and to Florida. He may not be robbing banks because we'll have a lot of these banks be notified, staked out, and but the teletype, then it was teletypes, wasn't internet. Teletype goes out. He's spotted in Mobile, Alabama. The agent in charge of the office calls me and wants to know the name of the bank or savings or loan. Do I think this guy is going to be robbing it? I said, what? I said, what do you... I don't know. You didn't even know what city he was in. I told you what city he's in. So he was there temporarily. They spotted him, surveillance camera, in a blood bank, and then they passed out flyers on him through all these different blood banks in the deep south out in Florida, and that's where he would be spotted in a blood bank. So got him there. I coached the agent on the interview a little bit, but then I got to interview him later on in the late 80s, 90-ish, with a Secret Service agent. You would have thought, Nick, that Secret Service would have had a behavioral science unit over the years. They did not have a unit like we had. They had not done research like we were doing with violent crimes at all. And so I did a couple of cases for Secret Service over the years that turned out pretty good. And so then they sent down a guy, a great guy. He's passed away, Ken Baker, Secret Service, and we conducted some research on assassins. Interviewed like Squeaky Fromm, who shot Ford, Sarah Jane Moore, who shot Ford, Arthur Bremer, who shot George Wallace, James Earl Ray shot Dr. Martin Luther King, and other assassination style of killings, and that's why we interviewed Franklin, because he had that assassination style of killing. And the problem is that, and we come up with this killer's shadow, is that to this day he still casts a shadow, a long shadow, because there are others like him out there. He's been executed 2013, but there are others who the law enforcement come across now and then who are emulating people, like him, who are being influenced today, not so much like the old days where it would be in some hall room or meeting or someone's basement. Now it's on the internet where you can have there's hundreds and hundreds of sites, these racist sites, anti-Semitic sites, where someone can gravitate to that, and not everyone will go out and perpetrate acts of violence, but someone may, and someone will see that and take action, like this Joseph Paul Franklin character. And so it's difficult today to investigate them. In the old days, you had an organization. Now you have someone who could be influencing others, but they're not tied into. There's no hierarchy. There's no leader and soldiers. None of that. Lieutenants, like an organized crime. Even you don't have anything like that. So it makes it extremely difficult for law enforcement, and law enforcement resources are very skimpy, particularly after 9/11. The emphasis was on international terrorism, a little bit de-emphasis on because of resources on domestic terrorism. So it's not over. There'll be other cases. Unfortunately, hopefully we can rely on is information from the public when they see someone who's becoming obsessed with hatred and anti-Semitic, anti-everything, or African Americans, and is becoming obsessed with weapons and other maybe weapons of destruction. Law enforcement can't be everywhere at every time, so they rely on public information from anonymous sources. That's what they need to follow up the leads, to see if this person, if it will carry out a violent act. It's kind of like a school shooter. You have certain indicators, but you can't always predict for 100%. You can intercede and take some action, family, or and give this person counseling or whatever. But it's very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult for law enforcement. So that's what they'll see in this book. They'll see the evolution of him, how and kind of like the Sonny Bono and Cher. The beat goes on, and the beat goes on. There'll be more. Unfortunately, there'll be more probably cases like this in the future.
Mr. Douglas, thank you again for your time today and for doing the interview. You've been more than generous with us here in the garage.
Thanks for having me again, and we're working on another one for next year. Next year we'll be doing one. They want us to do kind of like an Ann Rule thing, like one case that sometimes be a case that I've worked, or maybe a case to take a look at, a new case, investigate, try to come up with a solution, or so. So have me back.
Yes, sir. As soon as you're done with this next book, we'd love to have you back.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed it. Keep up the good work.
Thank you, Mr. Douglas, for joining us in the garage.
Thank you so much for joining us here in the garage, letting us be a part of your week, letting us be a part of your holidays. Colonel, do we have any recommended reading this week?
We have a lot to recommend today. First off, the True Crime Garage. Every single episode archive is available for your listening pleasure when you download the free Stitcher listening app on your device. That's right. Over 440 episodes to listen to for free, including the last time Mr. John Douglas was on the show back in May of 2019 in the John Douglas Mindhunter episode number 302. Also, we will be recommending a batch of John Douglas's books. We recommended The Killer's Shadow last week, and you heard us reference in our discussion this week some of his other great books, including The Cases That Haunt Us, Law and Disorder, and The Killer Across the Table. We will have all of those great titles listed on our recommended page at truecrimegarage.com. Here's us wishing all of you and yours a very safe and happy Thanksgiving. Be good, be thankful, and please don't litter.